Let's bring in Texas Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw, retired Navy SEAL, who's pushing to reward Border Patrol agents who risk their lives for all of us. I mean, I just listened to Bill's report there, and you talk about 440,000 fentanyl pills. God knows how many lethal doses are in those pills. But I think that retired Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott made a valuable point today on Fox News, and I'll get your response on the other side. Watch.
It's going to get even worse. Anytime that people know that they can commit a crime with no consequences, they can come to this country with no consequences, the flow is just going to continue. It's hard to say it's going to get worse because it's totally overwhelming agents today. And we don't talk about the criminals, the terrorists, and all the narcotics that are pouring across with that. And the hundreds of miles of border that are already open, there's not going to be anybody left on the border to actually arrest anyone.
We keep saying, Congressman, that it's hard to say it's going to get worse, and we see every day that it's getting worse. Your thoughts?
Look, he's right that it's about incentives, and there's two types of incentives. I'll flesh out what he said. There's the immigration incentive, and then there's the violation of law incentive, which applies to the narco-terrorists across our border. And so they're not held accountable for this. This is why I introduced a couple of weeks ago the Declaring War on the Cartels Act, which would allow us more tools to go after them, to go after their finances, to go after everything about them, to go after corrupt Mexican government officials that are aiding and abetting them. There needs to be consequences. We have to accept the fact that they are at war with us by killing nearly 80,000 Americans a year by poisoning them with fentanyl. Now then there's the immigration incentive. So unless we actually deport people right back to their country, unless we reinstate the Remain in Mexico program, unless we actually change some policy, we are continuing to incentivize people to just walk across, and there's nothing we can do about it. And what's heartbreaking about this, and the reason I keep putting forth legislation to help Border Patrol agents, say like this bonus you mentioned for $6,500 a year, we're also working on legislation for a retention bonus. The reason I keep doing that is because look at their morale. How can they feel like they're fighting the good fight when their president doesn't have their back? He's gone for ice cream 8 times publicly. That's just the times we know about. And he refuses to visit the border once. He doesn't care about them. He doesn't care about the problem down there. He doesn't care about nearly 80,000 Americans dying per year from fentanyl. And this guy died on an ATV trying to defend the border. And you wonder why morale is low, because they don't know what they're fighting for anymore, because the president doesn't have their back.
Because Border Patrol agents down there, all they're doing is processing migrants. They're not enforcing the border anymore. All they do is they come in, they process migrants, and they let them go. They get them a court date, and that's it. They move on. When Republicans continue to kind of put these programs forward, and Democrats continue to say the Republicans should stop pointing fingers and come up with ideas, what do you think?
I think we have lots of legislation. We have the exact ideas. I can tell you in detail the legislation that I just by myself that I've introduced. Say closing asylum loopholes. Look, a big problem here is that people have this credible fear claim. The cartels give them advice on exactly what to say, and then they set up a court date, or maybe even just a notice to appear months or even years down the road. So they just get let loose into the interior. You have to stop that. You also have to make the State Department actually do its job and engage with deals with other countries so that ICE can put people on planes and deport them right back to those countries. If you just put them back on the other side of the border, well, they just walk right back. Okay, you have to deport them far away. This is actually a very simple problem to fix, and we have the plans to fix it. So Democrats are lying when they say, oh, it's just publicity stunts. You're just going down there for publicity stunts. No, we have the legislation.
You say you can fix it, Congressman, but look at the problem getting worse. I want to put these numbers up on the screen. This is from 2020 to 2022. Look at the number of encounters. 458,000. Now we're at 2.378 million encounters, which is why Democratic Congresswoman Elisa Slotnick said this.
I think it's important for the administration to recognize it's a crisis. We all know it's a crisis. I've been clear about that. And so when you have a crisis in your country, you should deal with it.
But do you think he should go to the border? He only did a drive-by. He's never physically been to the border, especially in the past 2 years.
Vice President, senior leaders, absolutely. Senior leaders should deal with a crisis in their country.
And she's not a Democrat. I mean, she's not a border Democrat. The border Democrats are going crazy down there.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. However, there's still no one signed on to my legislation that would fix the problem. So I like that she's saying that publicly. I will call on her publicly to work with me. I've got good legislation. It is not partisan. It is not attacking Democrats. It is simply a solution to these problems. We really need Democrats to sign on to this stuff. Because, look, we won the House, but we're not the Senate, and we still don't have the presidency. We need them to recognize the crisis and work with us. We have the solutions.
Congressman Dan Crenshaw, great to see you. Thank you, sir.